Well, it's been a great couple of weeks of guns and shooting. Naturally, I didn't make as many videos as I wanted to, but thanks for your patience. And I'll start out by saying this video is about combination guns. Of course, there are side-by-side combination guns. That means one rifle barrel, one shotgun barrel, and that's a cape gun. And then there are the combination guns you're probably more familiar with, which has a rifle barrel either over or under a shotgun barrel, but like an over and under. They're pretty common. Of course, in Europe, they've used drillings, which means three barrels, double shotgun, all kinds of combinations. But before we get into that, I thought I'd show you this just wonderful little carbine, Ruger and Tomei. This is a first generation 9mm, and a lot of people write me, and it's actually quite entertaining because you get an idea of how people perceive you. Some of them watch whole videos or parts of one or what have you. So yeah, I don't just live in a dinosaur cave. I'm well aware of all these modern firearms. They're quite interesting, and actually I'll flip it around. Naturally, this is completely safe. It's a blowback 9mm. I've owned the Ruger, the Benelli. I still have a Berno and a couple of others. This one I took to the range, and if you like shooting this kind of firearm, which I do, it seems to never jam, and comes with flip-up sights. And what did we put on here? We put on a Vortex Spark, this old sight, but quite effective. It's just a kind of a red dot, and yeah, it's excellent. So I really just show it as a matter of interest. I think this is a first generation, and there's a second generation, and so on. But effortless to own and shoot. And this may sound a little ignorant, but when I fire these 9mm guns, they remind me, they're kind of like shooting 22s. You can burn up. I just wanted to show you how the stock works. So you push this down, and then it becomes very compact, like just a wonderfully compact little 9mm. And yeah, so I was just saying, they remind me of 22s. They're so easy to shoot, and that means it's very easy to go through an awful lot of ammunition quickly. And of course, the 9mm ammunition is not as cheap as 22. All these things. Anyway, I thought I'd show it to you just so that for those of you that write me, do you have anything newer than 1850? I do. And this is probably a keeper. It's a great, maybe we should do more on this subject, but when I check on the web, there are so many better reviewers, and they talk about these things. So, combination guns. This is a Berno. I looked before, 502, model 502. Now it's labeled 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch and 5.6 by 52R, which may sound like a mystery chambering. That's actually 22 Savage high power, 70 grain bullet, and you can see the configuration of the barrels. This probably is familiar territory for you. You've seen these. So that rifle barrel that you're looking at, that could also go on top of the shotgun barrel. Extremely versatile, and actually always good to shoot these. I had trouble finding 22 Savage high power ammunition. That was about the only thing I can say. But probably for the die-hard collectors, this, I have to say, magnificent Charles Osborne cape gun is really something else. I probably should show you the case. It's sometimes you get a case, sometimes you don't. I was lucky. Anyway, you'll see in the segment where we're shooting up in the mountains, I explain how the Jones underlever works, and it probably doesn't look that effective, or maybe it does. Everybody sees things in different ways, but this is an extremely strong way to lock the mechanism. And these barrels haven't budged in forever. The nice thing about that Jones underlever is because essentially the shooter is locking the action, by hand, the action can be quite shallow and quite strong. And as I mentioned, up in the hills there, I think this couldn't be tighter. It's an extremely strong action. And then side locks, and you probably can't make it out in this lighting in the studio, which isn't the best, but it's got good grain. And we looked at the steel butt plate up in the hills as well. Sometimes when you buy these, they'll be drilled in here, and there'll be sights and even attempts at drilling into the rib and putting, scopes or something like that. So I was happy that nobody messed around with this. And these express sights are worth a closer look. So the trajectory of the cartridge, which is the 500-450 #2 musket carbine, I made a chamber casting, and I guess there were so many different versions of this cartridge made that it's actually hard to know exactly what's what with the chambering. So we had to be creative in order to get it shooting, because I couldn't find the actually exactly correct round. But I'll set this down, and people are usually interested in what's what with the round. So what I did is these cartridges here, this is actually, you can see from the box, it probably doesn't say 43 Egyptian on there. But why did I put it on the table? Because it gives you an idea of approximately what the proper round looks like. And the proper round is at the bottom of this page here, 450 #2 musket. If you have this book, it's easy. I think it's in all the editions. That's what the original chambering was for. And in power, it's about like a 45-70. We probably captured that. And for comparison, I put a 30-30 round, that would be to your left, and I put a 6.5 Creedmoor on the other side. These are big lumbering bullets. By the way, when you buy these antique shells or cartridges, the lead frequently has that haze on it. There's a name for it, I just don't remember. But I was lucky to find this. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but if I tip it anymore, it all dumps out. But it's in excellent condition, and for ammunition, so old. I bought it even though I knew it wasn't entirely correct. But as I said, a lot of times you have to be creative, and those of you who own these older vintage firearms know that. Of course, that doesn't apply to the Berno. This you could shoot anytime this ammunition is around. And in case you didn't know it, the 22 Savage high power is very similar to the 25-35 Winchesters. So there's some clues for you there. Yeah, these are just great tone. Another one, you're maybe more familiar with the Savage, which had a whole bunch of 20 gauge and 22 Magnum and so on. I think we made a video before. Anyhow, I'll set that down. And then I'll just quickly show you in closing the case. You can't expect much because these folks hunted, they traveled and did things. And so it's not in ideal condition, but it's definitely nice to own. And I could do something to improve things. I just, as usual, I don't have the time. These things can all be made. I've seen them restored to perfection. But anyhow, in any condition, I'm glad to get it. And more importantly, it did a good job of protecting this firearm. And somehow, I don't remember how I know this, but this was delivered to India. So whoever ordered it in the first place was over there. And, who knows what the travels of these old guns were. but remarkable piece. Rifling excellent. Virtually no wear to the bore. Primarily, I think, because it was used during the lifetime of the original owner, and then maybe sporadically afterwards, but in all likelihood, nobody could figure out the ammunition problem, so that rifle barrel slept. And the shotgun, of course, would be a single shot hammer shotgun. And I've said this before, but these hammers, some people call them dogs. I see no deficiency. I actually like the immediate visible control of the firearm. You look at the hammer and you know exactly what's what. I know there was a rush to hammerless. I'm not sure exactly why, but yeah, this one has all of the things I look for. And the condition is fine. It's got the hammers. It's got the express sights. I'll sort out that ammunition issue, and the Jones underlever for me is totally fine. I wish they made something like this right now. I actually think there would be some people that would buy these new. And of course they make things like this in places like Verlach, Austria, but the price points are quite high. Anyhow, that's a lot of talking as usual. Thanks for being here again. I hope that you like the shooting segment, which gives you an idea of how effective this Cape gun really is. All right, well, thanks for watching. Here's a combination gun. It's really difficult to find. You're all familiar with over and under combination guns, I'm sure. That's where you have either a rifle in the top barrel of an over and under, or a shotgun, and then the corresponding opposite below. This is a combination gun that's called a Cape gun. It's quite an early firearm. This is a Charles Osborne. Don't know if we're getting some sun on it. The grade of the wood is very good. You can see the side locks and the hammers. Try to put in some better light. And they were located at number 2 Scotland Yard in London back then. It's got good checkering. You know, you really can't expect much for remaining finish for a firearm this old. But I just fired it. It's excellent. You see the lever on the bottom? I should tell you about that. So that's called a Jones underlever. And you're probably familiar to doubles where you open the action by pushing a top lever or a button. The Jones underlever is actually, I think, technically superior to all of them, but it's slow. Here's how it works. You shift the lever over, and there's a cammed, kind of a cruciform locking mechanism in the bottom of the action, so that when you close this is pulled down and back and completely locked up. So I've owned underlevers, Jones underlevers, in everything from, I'm not sure I had a 4-bore, but anyway, some really big rounds. And I've never seen one loose. I've never seen them come undone. Anyhow, getting back to this particular specimen, so it's a 16 gauge, and then on this side it's a 500/450. I think it's the carbine they call it, but if you look in the encyclopedia of cartridges, you'll see that there are a whole range of 500/450 rounds. And then we've got a beautiful steel butt plate as they installed back then. This, of course, all has to be inletted by hand. And unlike a lot of them, the wood hasn't pulled back from the steel anywhere, actually. And people were nice to this gun over the 100+ years. Nobody put sights or scopes or drilled holes that I can see. Disassembly is easy, and it has, you can tell it's a serious hunting firearm. It's got express sights regulated out to 500 yards, and then a very fine bead front sight on a dovetail. And you can see the stake marks, those two little marks. That means that somebody sighted it in at the factory and then staked it in place. Just an excellent rifle. The hard part is the ammunition. So we did what we could. It's too embarrassing to show you the shells,
but I should say the cartridge. The shell is an Imperial 16 gauge paper cartridge. You can see paper, and it closes up and it locks okay. So I guess we'll take a shot of each and then we can see what's what. I'll just shoot at that distant steel plate there. Actually, it's not too far away, and we'll see how it operates. But I mean, a moment ago it did quite well, and here we go. So that was the shot shell, front trigger. Now we'll go the rifle. Forgot to flip up a leaf. So I flipped up the 100. We'll see what happens. And it's cooperating today. So we even hit. I'll try to find some rounds that I'm not embarrassed to show you. But there it is. A lot of people were asking to show a Cape gun. Certainly one of my favorites. I mean, it's got everything you would want. Quality. This one has some decent condition. Elegant. Unlike anything that you can get today. Definitely worth looking out for. And not even the screws on this one are bow tied or messed up. And when it's working like this and hitting like this after 100 plus years, I don't take it apart to make problems or find problems. There's even a little bit of case coloring left on this one. A little bit of pitting on the barrel, doesn't matter. Anyhow, oh, and the condition of the rifling, people ask. This is Henry rifling in here, and it's in excellent condition, as is often the case. All right, thanks very much for watching. And if you can help the channel by joining Patreon, would be a great thing. You can't imagine how important it is to keep these channels going, not just my channel. Anyhow, thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time. Take care.